Greetings, and welcome to Infidelity Tales Lab. Your support is invaluable to us. We would appreciate it if you could share your geographical location with us today. Are you at home? Are you currently busy? Please provide your input in the space below. Let us proceed to explore today's narrative. Chapter 1. The Architect's Mask. Conrad Whitlock discreetly stored his cell phone after finalizing the details of what would soon be recognized as the most significant acquisition in his firm's history. A $50 million agreement poised to consolidate 3 underperforming tech startups into a cohesive entity under his discreet leadership. None of his neighbors in the modest suburban community of Lakeside Heights would ever suspect that the quiet man who drove a 10-year-old sedan was the strategic leader behind Fandom Investments, a private equity firm that operated with meticulous precision and complete confidentiality. As he arrived at his driveway, Conrad mentally transitioned back into the persona he had maintained for years, that of a financial advisor facing significant challenges while striving to support his family. He adjusted his tie, tousled his hair, and adopted a subtle slouch in his shoulders before stepping into his residence. Stella Whitlock, without diverting her attention from her wineglass, remarked from the kitchen that you were late once more. The dinner has cooled down. Conrad responded, his tone intentionally fatigued, indicating he needed to complete some paperwork. Is there a possibility for a resurgence of the microwave? Stella dismissed the comment, her impeccably groomed nails lightly tapping against her glass. Do I appear to be a waitress? A plate is located in the refrigerator. Your son has confined himself to his room following another challenging day at school. Conrad acknowledged with a nod and proceeded to their son's bedroom. He tapped softly. Leo. It is my father. May I enter, please? After a brief pause, the door slowly opened. Leo Whitlock, a 14-year-old with a slender build and his father's keen gaze, moved aside to grant him entry. The boy's room exhibited a curated disarray of sketchpads, architecture books, and partially completed building models. Leo remarked quietly to himself as he returned to his desk, where he had been meticulously sketching an intricate bridge design. Conrad positioned himself on the edge of the bed. Today was challenging at school, as Mr. Patterson returned our physics tests. I received a C- grade. Leo attempted to maintain a facade of indifference, though the tension in his shoulders betrayed his true feelings. My mother discovered it in my backpack. A C- is not a catastrophic outcome, Conrad remarked with a gentle tone. Please communicate that to my mother. She expressed her frustration, stating that I am not utilizing my potential effectively, similar to. Leo hesitated, choosing not to complete the thought. In a manner reminiscent of his father, Conrad concluded with a wistful smile. I understand her perspective regarding me. What Stella was unaware of. It was largely unknown that Conrad had intentionally shaped his reputation as an average provider. The reality was significantly more intricate. 10 years prior, he had uncovered his remarkable ability to recognize underperforming businesses with unexploited potential. Instead of aligning himself with a prominent firm, he established fictitious investments through a complex network of shell companies and proxies, enabling him to function with total anonymity. Conrad possessed his justifications for the misrepresentation. His father was a renowned financial expert whose achievements had rendered him a target. At the age of 12, Conrad experienced a significant event when his father was abducted and held for ransom by individuals who had thoroughly investigated his financial status. Although the police successfully rescued him, the experience left Conrad with profound psychological scars. He had committed to ensuring that his own family would never encounter such threats. However, years of consistently underperforming had adversely affected his marriage. Stella, who had once been sincerely in love with him, had developed a sense of resentment towards what she viewed as his insufficient ambition. She married Conrad, anticipating that the exceptional economics graduate would evolve into a financial powerhouse. Not the financial advisor who is purportedly facing challenges, with a modest income that barely meets their mortgage obligations. Conrad remarked on your involvement with the bridge design for the city competition, shifting the focus of the conversation. Leo's expression became somewhat more positive. While I recognize the importance of focusing on my primary subjects, I must acknowledge that your enthusiasm is valuable, Conrad interjected with conviction. Do not allow others to influence your perspective. Following an hour dedicated to assisting Leo in enhancing his bridge design, Conrad proceeded to the master bedroom. Stella had either fallen asleep or was feigning slumber. Their relationship had deteriorated into a state of silent tension, punctuated by sporadic conflicts. He discreetly collected his pillow and a blanket, making his way to the guest room that had effectively served as his bedroom for the past year. As he reclined in the darkness, Conrad reviewed encrypted communications regarding the closing procedures for the significant deal scheduled for tomorrow. All of his clients had yet to meet him in person. All business was conducted through secure channels and reliable proxies. Only his legal representative, Miranda Powell, was aware of his true identity, a detail safeguarded by attorney-client confidentiality. Conrad recognized the irony, particularly within the realm that held significance in high finance. He was an enigmatic figure whose investment acumen transformed struggling companies into successful enterprises. To his wife, he fell short of expectations. To his son, he was a father who had good intentions but lacked effectiveness. A change will need to occur in the near future. The mask was increasingly difficult to tolerate. Chapter 2: The Catalyst. The morning progressed in accordance with its established routine. Conrad meticulously prepared breakfast, while Stella diligently prepared for her role as an event coordinator for the affluent residents of Lakeside Heights. Her professional journey provided her with entry into the social circles she desired, but felt she could not completely engage with due to her views on Conrad's shortcomings. Stella informed that she would be home late, hardly making any progress on her breakfast. "I am coordinating Henderson's anniversary gala. Please do not feel obligated to stay awake." Conrad acknowledged her response, observing that she avoided making eye contact. A record he had compiled years prior that typically signaled she was not being truthful. The Henderson's anniversary is scheduled for 3 weeks from now. He was aware due to his firm's discreet financial support of Mr. Henderson's luxury watch company expansion. Following Stella's departure, Conrad transported Leo to school before proceeding to the modest office he operated downtown, an essential element in his intricate facade. Naomi, his assistant and one of the select individuals privy to his dual identity, welcomed him with a knowing smile. "The documents are prepared for the Triton merger," she stated, presenting him with a substantial folder. Miranda made a call. "She confirms that all arrangements are finalized for the final transfer." Conrad acknowledged the situation, experiencing a complex blend of accomplishment and void. The $50 million deal would reinforce his status as one of the most accomplished private investors in the country. However, he was unable to share this achievement with his family. He suggested that it was time to discuss Phase 2 in a subdued manner. Naomi raised her eyebrows. "Are you certain?" Upon commencement, Conrad interjected, "Please arrange a secure meeting with Miranda for tomorrow morning. It is time to implement some changes." Throughout the day, Conrad meticulously finalized the details of the deal, his mind partially engaged with the intricate plan he had been developing for months. He initially planned to disclose his success incrementally, allowing his family to adjust to the reality of his true wealth. However, he sensed that this scenario was no longer feasible. Upon receiving a message from Leo at 3:15 p.m., Conrad experienced a surge of apprehension. Leo refrained from texting during school hours. "Please complete my math test. Mother is likely to have a strong reaction. Would it be possible for you to return home earlier than usual?" Conrad promptly adjusted his schedule and drove home, arriving precisely as Leo approached the driveway, his shoulders burdened by the weight of his backpack, signaling an imminent confrontation. "Is that so?" Conrad inquired softly. Leo presented the test paper to him silently. The red F at the top was accompanied by a note from the instructor. "Leo appears to be preoccupied. A conference is required. I engaged in my studies." Leo responded with a hint of defensiveness, stating that he simply blanked when the test began. "I have faith in you," Conrad responded, placing a reassuring hand on his son's shoulder. "Everyone experiences challenging days. We will resolve this matter." Upon entering the house, they discovered Stella already present, her expression one of intense displeasure. Conrad deduced that she likely returned early, possibly with the intention of surprising Leo after school. "Please provide the information for review," she requested assertively, extending her hand. Leo submitted the test with some hesitation. Stella's expression turned red with frustration as she reviewed the document. A failing grade following all the tutoring and study sessions. Her voice elevated with each word spoken. "This situation is entirely unsatisfactory, Leo. What was your thought process behind that decision? I made an effort. Leo commenced. It is evident that the effort was insufficient. Stella interjected. This is the outcome when time is spent on impractical building designs rather than prioritizing what truly matters. Conrad advanced with purpose. Stella, I would like to address this matter in a composed manner. One test is insufficient. Please refrain from imposing your subpar expectations. Stella expressed her frustration, directing her anger at Conrad. This situation can be attributed to your actions as well. He is observing you to understand how to accept failure. Conrad experienced the well-known impact of her words, yet upheld his poise. Please stop, Stella. Leo does not require support. Assistance. Where has your support been for this family? Your capabilities are not being fully realized. Stella's voice resonated throughout the house. Leo, do you aspire to follow in your father's footsteps? A man struggling to maintain basic utilities? A professional who observes his former college peers successfully managing investment firms while he faces challenges with fundamental financial planning for retirees? Please refrain from that, Mom. Leo implored, his expression marked by a blend of embarrassment and frustration. No, you need to hear this, Stella continued, her voice laced with disdain. Your father had numerous opportunities for success, yet he chose to forgo them due to his excessive risk aversion and insufficient ambition. You are now emulating his path. Your current performance is reminiscent of your father's shortcomings. The term lingered in the atmosphere, separating them. Not effective. Conrad remained motionless, his expression inscrutable. At that moment, a realization solidified within him, a choice that had been developing over the years. The realization that he had just finalized a $50 million deal that morning weighed heavily on his mind, presenting a sharp contrast to Stella's evaluation of him. Leo, please proceed to your room, Conrad instructed softly. I would like to have a discussion with you regarding your mother. Stella remarked with a sense of finality that there was nothing further to discuss. I need to prepare myself. I have a dinner meeting with clients. She ascended the stairs, departing and leaving Conrad and Leo in an awkward silence. She did not intend for it to come across that way, Father. Leo stated with some discomfort. Conrad observed his son, noting the blend of embarrassment and pity reflected in the boy's gaze. The expression of pity was the decisive factor. Indeed, she did, Conrad responded with composure. However, she is mistaken regarding both of us. Please keep that in mind, Leo. Later that evening, after Leo had withdrawn to his room and Stella had departed for a client dinner, Conrad conducted a series of phone calls from his home office. Initially to Miranda, followed by Naomi, and ultimately to his private banker. Every call was succinct, clear, and initiated irreversible actions. At the conclusion of the final call, Conrad experienced an unusual sense of tranquility. The facade he had maintained for an extended period was on the verge of being removed, and the repercussions would be significant. Chapter 3. The Revelation. Conrad chose to wait until midnight before proceeding to the high-end restaurant located on the opposite side of town. The individual that Stella had briefly referenced to her friend during a phone conversation, unaware that Conrad had been listening in. He positioned his vehicle across the street. His high-end binoculars, utilized during his thorough investigations of prospective investments, were focused on the restaurant patio. Through the lenses, he observed as Stella shared a close moment of laughter with Bradford Dixon, the prominent owner of multiple local car dealerships. Conrad identified him without hesitation. Dixon approached Conrad's firm for financing 6 months prior, not realizing he was engaging with one of Conrad's representatives. Conrad opted not to pursue the investment opportunity following a review of his background. The check disclosed Dixon's background of dubious business practices. Conrad was acutely aware of the irony present in the situation. Stella was under the impression that she was engaged in an affair with a successful businessman. However, Conrad was aware that Dixon's dealerships were struggling to remain viable, sustained only by inventive financial practices and increasing liabilities. As he observed Dixon extend his hand to gently touch Stella's, Conrad experienced not jealousy, but rather a deep sense of understanding. Their marriage had been unviable for years. He had merely been fulfilling his responsibilities for Leo's benefit. Conrad returned home and dedicated the remainder of the night to executing his plan. He accessed a secure server, transferred documents to Miranda, authorized specific banking transactions, and drafted several letters. By dawn, he had finalized arrangements for what would be the most pivotal day of his life. Following a brief rest, Conrad transported Leo to school as per their routine. "Dad," Leo began cautiously as they neared the school. "Regarding the conversation with my mother yesterday." "There is no need for concern," Conrad responded. "At times, individuals may express sentiments they do not genuinely hold when experiencing anger. However, she has made similar statements in the past," Leo continued to assert. "I have observed how you simply accept it." Conrad turned to face his son, selecting his words with precision. "Leo, I would like to convey an important message to you. At times, individuals may not present themselves as they truly are. At times, individuals may choose to conceal certain aspects of themselves for a variety of reasons. Could you provide more details?" Leo inquired, his curiosity heightened. Conrad indicated that there will be forthcoming changes. "Please keep in mind that regardless of the circumstances between your mother and me, you remain the most significant person in my life." Leo observed his father's expression, perceiving the importance of his words. "Certainly, father, there is one additional matter to discuss." Conrad entered as Leo opened the car door. "Please ensure to pack a bag upon your return home today. Necessary items for a duration of 2 weeks. Attire, your prescribed medications, and possibly your sketchbook. Inform your mother that you will be at Damien's residence for a school project." "Are we proceeding to a destination?" Leo inquired, displaying confusion. Conrad stated with conviction, "It is time for a change." Following the drop-off of Leo, Conrad proceeded to Miranda's office. The attorney greeted him with a confident smile. "All materials have been organized as per your instructions," she stated, indicating the stack of documents on her desk. "While I appreciate your perspective, Conrad, I must express that the timing appears to be quite abrupt." "It has taken 10 years to reach this point," Conrad responded, signing where indicated. "I required the appropriate catalyst. It is my understanding that Mrs. Whitlock provided that yesterday." Miranda inquired, her demeanor composed, yet her gaze conveyed understanding. Conrad acknowledged her remarks, stating that she referred to me as ineffective, claiming I could hardly manage basic responsibilities. Miranda raised an eyebrow as she reviewed the banking statement, which indicated Conrad's personal net worth of just over $340 million. She remarked with a hint of dryness that perception and reality seldom align perfectly. By noon, Conrad had successfully completed every aspect of the initial phase of his plans. The mortgage on the house has been fully settled, with ownership exclusively transferred to his name. 2 new vehicles have been acquired, a Tesla Model S Plaid for personal use and a Land Rover Defender for Leo. Both purchases were made in cash and are scheduled for delivery that afternoon. First-class tickets for a world tour were secured for him and Leo, with Tokyo as their initial destination. Conrad has confirmed with his banker that $5 million has been transferred to a new trust fund in Leo's name, designed to support his education and future while safeguarding him from financial manipulation. Before returning home, Conrad made a final visit to a premium electronics store, acquiring 2 new smartphones equipped with international capabilities. All aspects of their previous life would be abandoned, including their digital traces. Upon Conrad's arrival at home, he discovered the house to be empty, as anticipated. Stella communicated that she would be working late once more. Conrad systematically organized his essential belongings, cleared his home safe of significant documents, and relocated his collection of rare coins, a personal interest he had never disclosed to Stella, into a secure case. While engaged in his tasks, Conrad contemplated the extent to which he had organized his life into distinct segments. The exterior of financial advisor Conrad Blackstruggles had been preserved so meticulously that even his wife remained unaware of the reality. The core of his endeavors, the complex agreements and calculated investments that established his wealth, were executed through a network of representatives and secure channels of communication. Upon Leo's return from school, Conrad assisted him in packing, providing only the information that they would be embarking on a trip together. Leo demonstrated commendable insight by asking minimal questions, appearing to grasp instinctively that a significant event was unfolding. "Father, is this related to what Mother mentioned?" Leo finally inquired as they placed their bags into Conrad's vintage sedan. Conrad acknowledged this to some extent, but emphasized that the focus should be on the subsequent developments. Having ensured their possessions were safely stored, Conrad conducted a final walkthrough of the residence. In the kitchen, he positioned an envelope on the counter in a manner that would ensure Stella would notice it right away. Enclosed was a copy of the paid mortgage statement, the deed transfer, and a concise note in Conrad's meticulous handwriting. "Stella, I have successfully completed the payment for the house. The property is now exclusively under my name. However, you are welcome to continue residing here if you choose. There are 2 new vehicles in the garage. Regard them as my farewell offerings, although only one is intended for you. Leo and I will be traveling for an extended period. Please refrain from attempting to contact us using our previous numbers. The lights remain illuminated. It appears I have demonstrated more value than previously anticipated. It appears that there has been a shift in effectiveness. Conrad." Conrad placed his wedding ring atop the note as a final gesture. A father and son departed as the afternoon sun started to set, leaving behind a life founded on meticulously crafted illusions. In the passenger's seat, Leo appeared both anxious and exhilarated, occasionally casting a glance at his father with a fresh perspective. "What is our true destination, Dad?" he inquired as they proceeded toward the interstate. Conrad smiled, a sincere expression that illuminated his eyes for the first time in years. "To explore the world, Leo, and to begin conveying the truth." Chapter 4. Shatterglass. Stella Whitlock returned home at 11:30 p.m. Feeling a bit inebriated from the fine wine and the captivating attention that Bradford Dixon had bestowed upon her during the evening. Upon entering, she called out for Leo. He then recalled that he was reportedly staying at a friend's residence for a school project. The residence was notably silent, devoid of even the faint sounds typically associated with Conrad's activities in his home office. She removed her heels in the foyer and walked into the kitchen to get a glass of water. At that moment, she noticed the envelope. Her name inscribed in Conrad's meticulous handwriting, his wedding ring shining distinctly atop. She had an instinctive awareness, even prior to opening it, that a significant transformation was imminent. Her hands exhibited a slight tremor as she perused Conrad's note. Initial confusion transitioned into disbelief, which subsequently evolved into intense anger. She hurried to the garage to verify his assertion and discovered a new Tesla and Land Rover in place of Conrad's sedan and her Audi. The vehicle gleamed under the garage lights, with price tags still prominently displayed on their windshields. Stella returned to the house with urgency, reaching for her phone to contact Conrad, only to be met with his voicemail. "The number you have dialed is no longer in service." She proceeded to attempt contacting Leo's phone, yielding the same outcome. "What is occurring at this moment?" She called out into the vacant residence. Her voice resonated against the walls that, as indicated by the documents in her possession, now exclusively belonged to her ostensibly unproductive husband. Hastily entering the bedroom, she opened Conrad's closet door to discover it was only partially filled. His preferred suits and casual attire are absent. The contents of his dresser drawers were likewise diminished. The bathroom was devoid of his toiletries. It appeared that he had methodically distanced himself from their lives. Stella settled onto the bed, her thoughts rapidly attempting to comprehend the circumstances at hand. Conrad had successfully settled their mortgage, a financial achievement that seemed unlikely for the individual she believed she understood. He acquired 2 high-end vehicles outright. The situation did not correspond with the financial advisor who was meticulously managing expenses and operating a vehicle with 150,000 miles on the odometer. She contacted Bradford, who responded in a drowsy manner. "What seems to be the issue?" "Conrad has departed," Stella stated, her voice strained with uncertainty. "He departed with Leo." Bradford expressed his relief with a quiet murmur. "We can now operate openly without the need for discretion." Stella responded sharply, indicating a lack of understanding. "He settled the mortgage on the property. He purchased 2 vehicles valued at over $200,000 in cash." After a prolonged silence, Bradford resumed speaking, his voice now completely attentive. "That is not feasible. Conrad is experiencing financial difficulties. It is widely recognized that." "It seems that there was a significant misunderstanding," Stella responded with a hint of frustration. Following the call, Stella commenced her search of the house for any potential clues. Conrad's home office provided minimal insights. He had removed his laptop and organized his filing cabinet. The safe concealed by the abstract painting was ajar and devoid of contents. By morning, Stella's confusion had solidified into anger. She initiated contact with all their acquaintances, seeking information regarding Conrad's location. No one possessed the answers. The downtown office indicated that he had not reported for work and was unresponsive to calls. In Tokyo, Conrad and Leo arrived at the presidential suite of the Park Hyatt. Leo positioned himself by the expansive windows, observing the vast cityscape beneath with a sense of admiration. "Father, what are our options for financing this?" he inquired, indicating the opulent suite with a gesture. Conrad inhaled deeply. "This is a matter that requires our attention and discussion. Please take a seat, Leo." For the next hour, Conrad provided a detailed account of his professional journey in the finance sector. He presented Leo with verified photographs of the companies under his control, detailed the investments he had undertaken, and ultimately shared his personal banking statements. Leo focused intently on the screen, his eyes widening at the 9 figures presented. 340 million, he stated quietly. "Throughout this period, you allowed Mother to believe." Conrad acknowledged that he had created a work of fiction. Initially for security reasons, but over time it became more convenient to uphold the falsehood than to clarify the rationale behind my prolonged concealment of the truth. "Is this related to the incident involving Grandpa?" Leo inquired with keen insight. Conrad acknowledged his son's keen intuition with a nod of approval. "When I was around your age, my father was abducted by individuals who specifically sought him out due to his financial status. Subsequently, I developed a heightened sensitivity regarding the exhibition of success. Could you please explain why you didn't inform both Mom and me?" Conrad paused, selecting his words with precision. "Your mother and I entered into matrimony at a young age. I have achieved a degree of success while continuing to keep a low profile. Over time, she developed a growing resentment towards what she viewed as my insufficient ambition. As my wealth increased substantially, our relationship had declined to a level where I found it difficult to trust her with the truth. Could you please explain why this information is being shared at this moment?" Conrad's demeanor became more gentle. "It is important for you to understand the true identity of your father. Neither the failure your mother portrayed nor a hero in the traditional sense. A man who navigated complex decisions." Leo remained quiet for an extended period, reflecting on all that had transpired. "What are the next steps in this process?" "We engage in travel activities. We engage in mutual understanding, free from deception. Upon our return, all aspects will have changed." Conrad retrieved a new smartphone from his pocket. "This is now in your possession. Updated contact information, ensuring secure communication. I have already populated it with the contact details for Naomi and Miranda, my assistant and attorney. They may contact us at their convenience." "What is the status regarding Mother?" Conrad's expression became more resolute. "Your mother made her decisions well in advance of yesterday. The statements she made to you, to us, were simply the tipping point." While Leo examined their suite, Conrad reviewed a secure email. Naomi confirmed that Stella had been contacting the office repeatedly, becoming more agitated with each call. Miranda indicated that Bradford Dixon had sought to obtain information regarding Conrad's finances via a private investigator, a predictable action that would ultimately prove unproductive. Conrad offered a somber smile. "The first phase has been successfully completed. Stella's world was showing signs of instability. Phase 2 has been completely compromised. In Lakeside Heights, Stella's day had transitioned from unfavorable to disastrous. She drove to Conrad's office, seeking answers from his receptionist, only to be informed that Conrad had taken an indefinite leave of absence after she threatened to call the police regarding Leo's disappearance. The receptionist presented a notarized letter from Conrad, which granted him sole temporary custody for the duration of their trip, duly signed by Stella. "I did not provide my signature for this document," Stella exclaimed, gazing at what seemed to be her flawless signature. The receptionist, referred to as Naomi by Conrad, offered a polite smile. "We possess video evidence of your signature from last month, Mrs. Whitlock. It seems there may have been an oversight." Stella was aware that deception was at play, yet the signature was remarkably flawless. She exited the office, her mind in disarray. By evening, Stella had made 50 attempts to reach Conrad by phone. Every attempt resulted in the same disconnection message. She had dispatched 30 text messages, varying from intense requests to emotional appeals. Could you please provide an update on your location? Please ensure Leo is brought home promptly. It is not acceptable to take our son and vanish without any communication. The game you are engaged in has concluded. Please return home. Conrad, kindly proceed. I would like to discuss this matter further. I apologize for my previous remarks. I experienced disappointment. Please confirm that Leo is safe. No responses were received. Upon Bradford's arrival that evening, his response to the information regarding Conrad's seemingly substantial wealth transitioned from skepticism to a measured consideration. There must be a rationale, he stated, walking back and forth in the living room. It is possible that he misappropriated the funds. It is possible that he is operating a Ponzi scheme. Conrad tends to exercise a high degree of caution in such matters. Stella responded, her tone devoid of emotion. 2. Cautious in approach. Bradford maintained that everyone possesses secrets. We aim to determine what ours is. While Bradford initiated calls to his contacts in the local finance sector, Stella entered Leo's room. The atmosphere in the space was noticeably distinct, less substantial in nuanced manners. His preferred books were missing, along with the architectural model he had dedicated months to developing. On his desk, she discovered a solitary sketch, an intricate depiction of the Tokyo skyline accompanied by a note at the bottom stating, "First stop." The understanding that Conrad had orchestrated this, and that Leo had been aware of their departure, washed over her like a tide of betrayal. Her son had made the decision to align himself with his father rather than her. At that moment, Stella received a notification on her phone indicating an incoming email. The email subject line stated, Conrad Whitlock successfully concludes a $50 million technology merger. The email was a corporate newsletter to which she had subscribed years prior and typically overlooked. With steady hands, she opened it to discover a feature article about a notable investment strategist named Conrad Whitlock, who had orchestrated one of the year's most significant private equity deals. The consolidation of 3 technology startups has resulted in the formation of a new organization named Tricore Solutions. The article noted that Whitlock was recognized for his reclusive nature and exceptional intellect, conducting most of his activities through intermediaries and maintaining a private presence away from the public eye. The concluding paragraph highlighted that this recent achievement contributed to Whitlock's estimated net worth, which exceeds $300 million. Stella examined her phone with a sense of astonishment, as the details began to align in her mind. The husband she had consistently undermined over the years, the individual she labeled as ineffective directly and criticized in private, was, in fact, one of the most accomplished private investors in the nation. Now he was gone, taking their son and leaving her with only a paid-off house, a luxury car, and the growing awareness that she had significantly misjudged the man she had married. Her phone chimed once more with a new email, this time from Miranda Powell, the attorney representing Conrad. The communication included solely a link to a cloud storage folder along with a password. Upon entering the password, Stella discovered a vast collection of photographs, including surveillance images of herself and Bradford taken over the past 18 months, complete with date and timestamps. The concluding image was captured 2 nights prior, with Bradford's hand positioned on her thigh beneath the restaurant table. The communication was unequivocal. Conrad was fully aware of all the details. Stella collapsed, descending to the floor of Leo's room. With her son's sketch of Tokyo still in her hand, the full magnitude of her loss began to settle in. Chapter 5 The Domino Effect 1 week into their world tour, Conrad and Leo stood atop the Tokyo Sky Tree, gazing out at the sprawling metropolis below. Leo had been thriving away from the pressure of his mother's expectations, revealing a natural talent for architecture that Conrad was determined to nurture. "I've been thinking," Conrad said, watching his son sketch the cityscape. "When we get to our next destination, how would you feel about taking some architecture courses?" Leo looked up from his sketch pad. "Like college courses? Why not? Money isn't an issue, and you clearly have both the passion and—" The aptitude of Leo's expression brightened. "That would be amazing, Dad." He hesitated before adding, "I never told Mom how much I loved architecture because she always said it wasn't a real career like medicine or law." Conrad's jaw tightened briefly. "Your mother and I had different priorities." As they descended in the elevator, Conrad checked his secure phone. There was a message from Naomi with a simple update: Domino 1 has fallen. Conrad allowed himself a small smile. Phase 2 was proceeding exactly as planned. Back in Lakeside Heights, Bradford Dixon stared in disbelief at the foreclosure notice on his desk. His primary bank had called in his loans after an anonymous tip revealed irregularities in his dealership's financial reporting. The subsequent audit uncovered years of creative accounting and tax discrepancies. "This can't be happening," he muttered, reaching for his phone to call his attorney. Before he could dial, his assistant buzzed through. "Mr. Dixon, there's a Ms. Powell here to see you. She says she represents someone interested." In the process of acquiring your dealerships, Bradford adjusted his tie, a flicker of hope igniting. "Send her in." Miranda Powell entered with the assured stride of someone well-versed in high-stakes negotiations. Without preamble, she placed a folder on Bradford's desk. "My client is prepared to purchase all 3 of your dealerships at 60% of market value, with a deal closing within 48 hours. This offer expires at noon tomorrow." Bradford scoffed. 60%? That's highway robbery. Who's your client?" Miranda's smile didn't reach her eyes. "Someone who knows exactly how. Your situation is quite precarious, Mr. Dixon. There is someone who is aware of the $430,000 you embezzled from your previous employer 7 years ago, a detail that has not yet come to the auditor's attention but certainly could." The color drained from Bradford's face. "How could anyone possibly know about that?" "My client is meticulous," Miranda replied, standing to leave. "Noon tomorrow, Mr. Dixon. Accept the offer or face the repercussions." As Miranda departed, Bradford immediately contacted Stella, his voice tense with anxiety. "Something's happening. I'm being set up. Could you please clarify your statement?" Stella inquired, her mind preoccupied with her own issues. She had spent the morning receiving notification from the country club regarding the revocation of her membership due to ethical concerns. This was the same country club where she had been organizing events for the elite of Lakeside Heights. Her dealerships were facing foreclosure, and now a lawyer had appeared, proposing to purchase them for a fraction of their value. Stella was aware of certain details, information that remained undisclosed to others. Chill coursed through her as she recalled the lawyer's name, Miranda Powell. The same attorney who had sent Stella the incriminating photos of her affair. The same attorney who had produced the forged custody document bearing Stella's flawless signature. "It's Conrad," Stella said, her voice barely above a whisper. "He's behind this." "That's impossible," Bradford scoffed. "Conrad's just a small-time financial planner. He doesn't have this kind of power." "You don't understand," Stella insisted. "Conrad isn't who you think he is. He's worth hundreds of millions. He's been hiding it all these years." There was a long silence before Bradford spoke again, his voice now measured. "If that's true, then we need to find a way to leverage it. If he's been concealing his assets during your marriage, that constitutes fraud. You could be entitled to half." The idea quickly took hold in Stella's mind. She had already consulted a divorce attorney who had expressed skepticism regarding her claims about Conrad's hidden wealth. However, if she could substantiate it— "I need to access his home office," Stella resolved. "There must be something there, some evidence I overlooked." After concluding the call, Stella began her search with a methodical approach. At Conrad's office once more. She meticulously removed books from the shelves, inspected behind pictures, and scrutinized the floor for any loose boards. In a moment of frustration, she began tapping on the walls, listening for hollow spots. In the corner behind Conrad's desk, one section produced a distinct sound. Stella examined it with care and uncovered a seam cleverly concealed by the wallpaper pattern. Using a letter opener, she pried at it until a small panel popped open, revealing a hidden safe. With her heart racing, Stella attempted combinations on the digital keypad, recalling their anniversary. Leo's birthday was unsuccessful, and so was Conrad's. In a moment of desperation, she attempted to open her own birthday safe. To her astonishment, it clicked open. Inside, she discovered a solitary USB drive accompanied by a handwritten note. "For Stella, when you inevitably find this." With trembling hands, she connected the drive to Conrad's computer and plugged it in. The drive held a single video file titled, "Watch Me." The video commenced automatically, revealing Conrad seated in his office, an elegant space unfamiliar to her. "Hello, Stella," the recorded Conrad stated calmly. "If you're watching this, it means you found my emergency safe after I've initiated Contingency Plan Alpha. Congratulations on your persistence, though I must admit, I made this fairly easy to find." Conrad's image leaned forward slightly. "You may find yourself perplexed by recent developments, so permit me to elucidate a few matters. Indeed, I possess considerable wealth, a fact I have concealed throughout our marriage for reasons that once appeared significant but have since diminished in importance as your disdain for me has escalated." He offered a thin smile. "You might be contemplating divorce now, assessing your potential claim to my assets. Allow me to alleviate your concerns. Every dollar I have earned is meticulously documented and legally arranged to remain my separate property. A property under the laws of our state. The prenuptial agreement you signed, which explicitly addressed undisclosed assets acquired during the marriage, has been reinforced by annual legal reviews that you inadvertently signed during our tax preparations." Stella recalled those documents, pages of legal jargon she had signed without reading, while Conrad prepared their seemingly modest tax returns. "Furthermore," Conrad continued, "I have been documenting your affair with Bradford Dixon for the past 18 months, which constitutes marital misconduct. Under the laws of our state, this would considerably diminish any claim you may have, even if my assets were considered marital property, which they are not." The Conrad in the video paused, his expression becoming more serious. "I could have disclosed my success years ago, Stella. However, I opted not to because I desired to be appreciated for who I am, not for my wealth. What I uncovered instead was that you did not love me at all. The contempt you displayed and the disdain you expressed revealed your true character. As for what occurs next," he continued, "that partly depends on you. Should you decide to pursue legal action, you will encounter a team of attorneys who have been preparing for this eventuality for years. Alternatively, if you choose to accept the situation with grace, you will discover that the house and car I have left you will afford a comfortable lifestyle, albeit perhaps not the one you envisioned when you began your relationship with a man whose dealerships are now facing foreclosure." The video concluded with Conrad looking directly into the camera. "One final note. Stella, Leo is now fully informed of everything that has transpired. Diminish my contributions in front of him, all the expectations you placed on him to excel where you perceived I had not succeeded. He now comprehends the complete context of those instances. I will allow you to consider how that realization has influenced his perception of you." The screen turned dark, leaving Stella gazing at her own reflection in the monitor, tears of anger and humiliation flowing down her face. In Switzerland, Conrad and Leo savored a relaxed breakfast at their hotel in Zurich. Leo had just finished his first week of specialized architecture classes at ETH Zurich, where his talent had already garnered attention from the instructors. "Your project impressed Professor Mueller," Conrad remarked, scrolling through an email on his phone. "He's inquiring if you'd consider joining their summer program for gifted students." Leo looked up from his sketchbook, his eyes shining with excitement. "Really? That would be amazing." Conrad smiled, appreciating his son's newfound confidence. The past few weeks had transformed Leo from an insecure, anxious teenager into a young man beginning to recognize his own potential. His secure phone buzzed with a message from Miranda Dixon, signed the papers. "All 3 dealerships now under our control. Domino 2 down." Conrad's smile took on a harder edge as he thought of Stella, alone in the house they had shared, surrounded by evidence of his success and her misjudgment. He considered Bradford signing away his business empire for a fraction of its value. Prevent legal issues. "Is everything all right, Dad?" Leo inquired, observing the change in Conrad's demeanor. Conrad relaxed his expression. "Everything is precisely as it should be, Leo, precisely as it should be." Chapter 6. Collateral Damage. By the 3rd month of their world tour, Conrad and Leo had established a comfortable routine. They would spend several weeks in each location, with Leo participating in specialized architecture workshops while Conrad managed his business empire remotely. Currently in Barcelona, they had secured an apartment with a breathtaking view. An unfinished masterpiece, La Sagrada Familia, Leo had flourished during their travels. His natural talent for architectural design, nurtured by exposure to the world's greatest structures and mentorship from renowned architect Conrad, had connected him with significant opportunities. More importantly, The pressure and anxiety that had plagued him in Lakeside Heights had dissipated, replaced by genuine confidence and curiosity. "Dad, Professor Garcia invited me to join his studio session tomorrow," Leo announced as they shared dinner on their terrace. Discussing innovative approaches to sustainable urban development, Conrad nodded approvingly. "Sounds perfect for you. Your bridge design incorporated several sustainable elements." "That reminds me," Leo said hesitantly. "I got an email from Mom yesterday." Conrad's expression remained neutral, though his hand tightened imperceptibly around his wine glass. "What did she say?" "She wants me to come home. Says she misses me and that you—" Leo trailed off uncomfortably. "I'm what?" Conrad prompted, "manipulating me, turning me against her." Leo met his gaze. The father's gaze was direct. "She claims you are using your wealth to purchase my affection." Conrad contemplated his reply thoughtfully. "And what is your perspective, Leo?" "I believe she never took the time to understand my true self until I was no longer present," Leo responded, astonishing Conrad with his perceptiveness. "She never fostered my passion for architecture or backed my creative endeavors. Her focus was solely on my academic performance and adhering to the path she deemed appropriate." "People are complex," Conrad stated. "Your mother isn't entirely wrong to desire academic success for you." "However, it wasn't about me, was it?" Leo inquired thoughtfully about how my success or failure impacted her. Conrad acknowledged this with a slow nod, recognizing the depth of the observation. "Are you still planning to divorce her?" Leo posed, the question lingering in the air. "The paperwork has already been filed," Conrad affirmed. "Miranda has been directed to proceed irrespective of your mother's reaction." Leo fell silent for a moment, expressing, "I feel sympathy for her at times. I'm uncertain as she comprehends the implications of her losses." This distinction lies between consequences and punishment, as Leo Conrad articulated. He clarified that he was not punishing her mother. Rather, he was permitting her to face the natural outcomes of her decisions. Later that evening, after Leo had retired to his room, Conrad reviewed his secure messages. An update from Naomi brought a grim smile to his face. In Lakeside Heights, Stella Whitlock's situation continued to deteriorate systematically, exactly as Conrad had orchestrated. The country club had permanently revoked her membership after her anonymous evidence emerged indicating her inappropriate behavior toward staff and making derogatory remarks about guests. Edited recordings from Conrad's surveillance showcased her most unflattering moments without providing context. Her event planning business suffered a significant decline after her most esteemed clients were presented with anonymous portfolios outlining her affair with Bradford Dixon, complete with timestamps indicating her presence with him during events she asserted she was managing. Most troublingly, her parents, with whom she had always maintained a strained relationship, were informed of these developments. A package containing a video of Stella ridiculing them to Bradford, referring to them as small-town nobodies and expressing relief that Conrad's modest income provided her an excuse to avoid spending holidays with them. The isolation that Conrad had orchestrated was total. Stella's friends had deserted her once her social standing diminished. Her partner was now financially ruined, with his dealerships sold to a holding company that Conrad secretly controlled. Her son was traveling the world with the husband she had disparaged for years, gaining educational experiences. Cultural opportunities far surpassing what she could have offered. Conrad picked up his phone and reviewed Stella's latest messages. She had sent 347 texts over the past 3 months, with their tone shifting from anger to disbelief to urgent pleading. The most recent message read, "Conrad, please, I'm begging you. Let me speak to Leo. Let me explain. I've lost everything. Please don't take my son too." Conrad left it unanswered like he had with all the others. He opened his laptop and navigated to a secure website where he could view the surveillance feeds from their house in Lakeside Heights. Stella was sitting in the kitchen surrounded by empty wine bottles, staring vacantly at her phone, waiting for a response that would never come. Conrad felt no pleasure in her suffering, but neither did he feel remorse. He had simply constructed the perfect consequence for years of contempt, allowing Stella to experience the same isolation and dismissal she had inflicted on him and Leo. His phone chimed with a message from Miranda, "Final phase ready to implement upon your approval." Conrad typed a simple response, "Proceed." The next morning in Lakeside Heights, Stella was awakened by the doorbell. She staggered to the door, disheveled from another night of fitful sleep and too much wine, to find Miranda Powell standing on her doorstep, elegant as always in a tailored suit. "Mrs. Whitlock," Miranda said coolly, "I have some documents that require your attention." Stella stepped aside, wordlessly to let her in. Over the past months, she had learned that opposing Conrad's attorney was futile. Miranda Powell represented a system of power and privilege that Stella had once believed she was part of, but now recognized had always been beyond her reach. Miranda placed a thick envelope on the kitchen counter. "These are the final divorce papers. My client has been quite generous, all things considered. You may keep the house and car, and he has established a modest trust that will provide you with $5,000 monthly for the..." Over the next decade, Stella expressed her frustration, noting the substantial wealth involved. "He's worth hundreds of millions," she remarked with a hint of bitterness. Miranda responded calmly, reiterating that those assets are legally distinct from marital property. "Moreover, your documented marital misconduct considerably undermines any claims you may have," she stated. "The offer currently presented is far more favorable than what you would obtain through litigation." Stella's demeanor shifted, reflecting her resignation. Additionally, Mr. Whitlock has been awarded primary physical custody, with visitation rights granted to you. Determined based on Leo's preferences once he turns 16 next month, Miranda's tone softened slightly. "For what it's worth, Mrs. Whitlock, Leo is thriving. His architectural talents are being nurtured by some of the field's greatest minds, and he's been accepted to a special program at the Architectural Association in London this fall." Tears welled in Stella's eyes. "He always loved designing buildings. I thought it was just a hobby. Perhaps if you had taken more interest in his passion rather than focusing solely on his academic performance, she might have recognized his gift sooner." Miranda observed her tone with a clinical detachment rather than an accusatory edge. After Miranda left, Stella sat at the kitchen table with the divorce papers, her life reduced to legal language and financial settlements that felt like a pittance compared to what she had lost. Her phone chimed with a text from Bradford, his first in weeks. "It's over, Stella. I'm moving to Arizona to stay with my brother. Conrad won. He destroyed everything I built." Stella stared at the message, a hollow laugh escaping her lips. Conrad had indeed achieved victory, and so thoroughly that neither she nor Bradford had grasped the full extent of his strategy until it was too late. She picked up her phone and typed one final message to Conrad. "I understand now. You were never useless. I was just blind. I apologize." For the first time in 3 months, she received a response, apology noted. "Goodbye, Stella." In Barcelona, Conrad closed his phone and redirected his focus to Leo, who was enthusiastically presenting the sustainable urban development concept he had developed during Professor Garcia's workshop. Was met with genuine admiration from Leo Conrad, who remarked, "This is truly impressive," as he examined the intricate design. "You possess a remarkable talent," he added, beaming with praise. "Do you think we could visit London next? There's an exhibition at the Royal Institute of British Architects that I would love to see." Conrad agreed, placing his arm around his son's shoulders. "The world is yours to explore, Leo. Never let anyone convince you otherwise." As they discussed their plans for London, Conrad experienced a sense of fulfillment regarding Phase 3 of his journey. The plan was now in motion, bringing his strategy full circle. Stella was isolated and humbled, Bradford was financially ruined, and most importantly, Leo was flourishing away from the toxic environment they had created. The mask Conrad had worn for so long was permanently discarded, allowing both him and Leo to finally live authentically. Any guilt he might have felt about the calculated destruction of Stella's life was outweighed by the knowledge that Leo would never again be made to feel inadequate by someone who should not have done so. He has developed his talents. The strategist executed a long-term plan and achieved a decisive victory, as is his custom. Chapter 7 New Foundations. A year had elapsed since Conrad and Leo departed from Lakeside Heights. Following their global tour, they settled in London, where Leo flourished at the esteemed Architectural Association. Conrad acquired a historic townhouse in Kensington and established a new headquarters for Phantom Investments in close proximity, finally emerging from the shadows to publicly acknowledge his accomplishments. The financial achievements. On a crisp autumn morning, Conrad sat in his home office reviewing quarterly reports when his secure phone rang. The caller ID displayed Miranda Powell. "Miranda, good morning. Conrad answered. "I trust everything is proceeding as planned." "Better than planned," Miranda replied. "The Bradford-Dixon situation has been fully resolved. After the bankruptcy proceedings, we were able to acquire his remaining assets through our shell company for a fraction of their value. His attempt to file a lawsuit claiming you orchestrated his downfall was dismissed for lack of evidence yesterday. Excellent, Conrad noted in his calendar. Stella has accepted the revised settlement terms, as confirmed by Miranda. In exchange for the additional monthly stipend, she has agreed to waive all future claims and maintain confidentiality regarding your financial history. She has also agreed not to contact Leo unless he initiates communication." Conrad felt a weight lift from his shoulders as the final pieces of his strategic extraction from his former life were falling into place. A precision he had envisioned. "Thank you, Miranda. Your work on this has been invaluable." After ending the call, Conrad found Leo in the townhouse's sunroom working on an architectural model for his latest school project. "That looks impressive," Conrad observed, studying the intricate design. "Is this for Professor Harrington's sustainability challenge?" Leo nodded, carefully adjusting a miniature solar panel array on the model's roof. "It's a community center that generates more energy than it uses. I'm incorporating water reclamation, systems, and vertical gardens." Conrad smiled with genuine pride. In the years since they had left Lakeside Heights, Leo had transformed from an anxious, underperforming student into a confident young architect in training, whose designs had already won 2 student competitions. "I heard from Miranda this morning," Conrad said, taking a seat across from Leo. "The divorce is finally settled." Leo's hands stilled on his model. "How's Mom accepting the situation?" Conrad replied carefully. "The agreement includes a provision that she won't contact you. Any communication would need to be initiated by you." Leo was silent for a moment, his expression thoughtful. "I'm not ready to talk to her yet. Maybe someday, but not now." "That's entirely your decision," Conrad assured him. "There's no rush. Has she tried to contact you again?" Conrad hesitated before answering truthfully. "Yes, she sends messages occasionally, primarily about financial matters, but sometimes asking about you." What Conrad didn't share was the nature of Stella's most recent message, sent late at night with a sense of urgency. Someone who had lost everything. "I am aware of your actions, Conrad. Not only towards me but also towards Bradford. You systematically dismantled both of our lives. Was it worth it? Did ruining our lives provide you with a sense of power?" He left that question unanswered, as he did with most of her messages. "Now, I have some news of my own," Conrad said, shifting the topic. "I've been invited to deliver a keynote address at next month's Global Investment Summit, and I have decided to accept." Leo looked up in surprise. "Really? You're going public with everything?" "Not everything," Conrad clarified. "But I am." Conrad Whitlock is ready to step into the spotlight and acknowledge his accomplishments. Later that afternoon, he convened with Naomi, who had moved to London to serve as his chief of staff. They gathered in his private study to examine the final reports regarding what Conrad still termed the Lakeside situation. Naomi informed him that Bradford-Dixon had relocated to Phoenix, where he is now working as a sales manager at his brother's plumbing supply company. His efforts to re-establish himself in the automotive industry did not succeed. Contacts ensured that his loan applications were rejected. Conrad nodded, satisfied. The properties of the former Dixon automotive locations have been successfully transformed. 2 are now Tesla dealerships, and the third is being developed as a technical training center for disadvantaged youth. Conrad allowed himself a small smile at the irony. Dixon's former flagship dealership, from which he had orchestrated both financial fraud and his affair with Stella, is now providing opportunities for young people to build legitimate careers. And Stella's former clients have all been successfully transitioned to our preferred vendors. Naomi has confirmed that her efforts to rebuild her event planning business in Lakeside Heights have faced ongoing challenges. As anticipated, the social isolation has proven to be her most significant hurdle. Conrad acknowledged this confirmation without any sense of satisfaction, recognizing the strategic success it represents. Additionally, Leo's school records have all been transferred and updated. His current transcript reflects notable improvement, and Professor Harrington has specifically highlighted his potential. A scholarship to the architectural graduate program at Cambridge Pride filled Conrad with pride. He was exceptional. All he required was the appropriate environment to thrive. As Naomi left, Conrad poured himself a rare glass of scotch and stood by the window, observing the garden where Leo was sketching a section of the ornate Victorian greenhouse. The past year had progressed almost precisely as Conrad had envisioned, a strategic dismantling of his false life and the reconstruction of an authentic one. The retribution he had enacted against Stella and Bradford had been meticulously and absolutely designed not merely to punish but to systematically deconstruct the foundations of their existence, just as they had attempted to do to him and Leo with their emotional abuse and betrayal. Conrad's phone chimed with a message from a number he didn't recognize. The text was brief but sent a chill through him. Revenge has a cost, and bills always come due. For the first time since leaving Lakeside Heights, Conrad felt a flicker of unease. Bradford Dixon had been thoroughly financially defeated, socially disgraced, and legally compromised. He should have no resources left for threats. Conrad forwarded the message to his security team with instructions to trace its origin and enhance surveillance on both Bradford and Stella. The strategist within him acknowledged that even the most brilliant plans could encounter unforeseen variables. As evening descended over London, Conrad joined Leo for dinner in their formal dining room, setting aside the troubling message to concentrate on his son's animated description. Heir of his latest architectural inspiration, Leo reflected on the conversation they had just had as they concluded their meal. He mentioned the importance of using privilege to create opportunities for others. Conrad, intrigued, prompted him to elaborate. Leo expressed his desire to establish a scholarship for students interested in sustainable architecture who come from disadvantaged backgrounds. He suggested that they could fund it through the foundation Conrad had mentioned starting. Conrad felt a surge of pride so intense it nearly overwhelmed him, recalling the journey of the son he had rescued from a toxic environment. The environment had not only allowed him to thrive, but he was also considering how to extend that opportunity to others. "That's an excellent idea, Leo. We'll arrange it first thing tomorrow." Later that night, after Leo had retired to his room, Conrad received a call from his security chief. "Sir, we've traced the message. It didn't originate from Bradford Dixon. It came from a burner phone purchased in London 3 days ago." Conrad's blood ran cold. "London? Are you certain?" "Positive, sir. The phone was used within 2 miles of your residence." Conrad immediately checked the security. The system confirmed that all entrances were secured and the alarm was active. He then quietly approached Leo's room, opening the door just enough to verify that his son was sleeping peacefully. Someone from his past had followed them to London, someone with a grudge and sufficient resources to track them down despite their careful relocation. Conrad returned to his study and opened his laptop, accessing the secure server where he maintained contingency plans for every conceivable threat. He had not built his fortune by being unprepared, and he would not start now. It is imperative not to jeopardize Leo's safety by underestimating this emerging threat. The individual responsible for that message will soon realize that Conrad Whitlock's strategic ruthlessness is only beginning to surface. Chapter 8 Ghost from the Past. The enigma surrounding the threatening text intensified over the subsequent week. Conrad's security team tracked the burner phone's movements throughout central London, but lost the trail when it was seemingly discarded near Paddington Station. Enhanced security measures were instituted around both the townhouse and Leo's. The institution employed unobtrusive security personnel who conducted discreet surveillance. Conrad chose not to disclose the threat to Leo, as he was hesitant to disturb the stability his son had achieved. Instead, he continued with his usual routine while subtly engaging a network of contacts to determine who may have tracked them from Lakeside Heights. On a rainy Tuesday afternoon, Conrad was in a meeting with investors at Phantom's London headquarters when his secure line rang, displaying Naomi's designated code. "Excuse me, gentlemen," he said with poise to the venture capitalists convened around his conference table. "I need to take this," he stated. In his private office, Conrad responded with tension, "What's happened?" "Sir, we've identified a possible security concern," Naomi reported. "A woman matching Stella's description was photographed by our surveillance system near Leo's school yesterday. She did not approach the building but observed it for approximately 20 minutes before departing in a taxi." Conrad's grip on the phone tightened. "Confirm it's her, then have the security team bring her to At the Belgravia safe house, no interaction with Leo. Understood, sir. Conrad ended the call, his mind already calculating probabilities and consequences. Stella had never been particularly resourceful or determined. For her to track them to London and conduct surveillance suggested either a dramatic change in character or external assistance. The threatening text message took on new significance in this context. Could Bradford Dixon be coordinating with Stella from Phoenix? The timing seemed more than coincidental. Conrad returned to his meeting. He maintained a composed exterior while his mind processed various contingency scenarios. If Stella had indeed come to London, she would have violated the non-contact agreement in their divorce settlement. This provided him with legal leverage, but it did not clarify how she had located them or what her intentions were. Later that evening, Conrad received confirmation from a security team. Facial recognition had verified Stella's identity from the surveillance footage. She was staying at a mid-range hotel in Bayswater under her maiden name. Morrison, should we proceed with interception? Sir, his security chief inquired over the secure line. Conrad contemplated the options. Confronting Stella directly might yield answers but could also escalate the situation unpredictably. Maintain surveillance for now, he decided. I want to know who she contacts, where she goes, and especially if she attempts to approach Leo again. After concluding the call, Conrad went to check on Leo, finding him engrossed in a complex set design in his home workspace. Working late? Conrad asked casually. Leo looked up with a weary smile. Final revisions for the Sustainable Housing Project. Professor Harrington believes it has potential for the Buckminster Fuller Prize. Conrad's chest swelled with pride, even as his concern for Leo's safety grew. His son had thrived beyond his expectations, once liberated from Stella's incessant criticism and pressure to conform to her limited definition of success. Don't stay up too late, Conrad advised, suppressing the urge to caution Leo about possible dangers. Your presentation is important, but so is arrest. The following morning, Conrad was analyzing security footage from the overnight monitoring when he received another text from the unknown number. Your son's design project is impressive. The vertical guard integration is particularly innovative. Does he know about his mother yet? A cold rage settled in Conrad's chest. Not only was the sender aware of Leo's architectural work, but they had specifically referenced Stella's presence in London. This was no longer a vague threat, but a targeted provocation. Conrad promptly contacted his security team. Chief, please bring Stella in now. Within 2 hours, Conrad stood in the sparsely furnished living room of a nondescript townhouse in Belgravia, which served as one of his secure locations. His security team had intercepted Stella leaving her hotel and brought her there without incident. She sat on the sofa, appearing both defiant and somehow diminished from the confident, status-obsessed woman he had married. Her designer clothes had been replaced by off-the-rack items, and her once perfect manicure was noticeably absent. "Hello, Stella," Conrad said. Said flatly, "I believe our divorce agreement included a no-contact provision regarding Leo." Stella met his gaze directly. "I haven't contacted him. I just wanted to see him from a distance to know he's all right." "He's thriving," Conrad replied coldly. "No thanks to your years of undermining his confidence and dismissing his talents." "I made mistakes," Stella admitted, surprising Conrad with her directness. "I was wrong about many things, including you." Conrad's expression remained impassive. "Your regrets are irrelevant. What concerns me is how you found us and who you're collaborating with." Confusion flickered across Stella's face. "I'm not collaborating with anyone. I hired a private investigator to locate you. That's all." "And the texts?" Conrad pressed. "Are you going to deny sending those as well?" "What texts, Conrad? I don't know what you're talking about." Conrad studied her carefully. Either Stella had become an exceptional actress, or she genuinely didn't know about the threatening messages. Before he could pursue this line of questioning, his phone rang with his security chief's call. "Emergency code, excuse me," he said tersely as he stepped into the adjoining room. "What is it, sir?" the security chief reported urgently. "We have a situation at Mr. Leo's school. A man attempted to approach him while students were changing classes. Our operative intercepted him before contact was made. The man fled but dropped his phone, which matches the one used to send the texts. Conrad's blood ran cold. "Is Leo safe?" "Yes, sir." Our operative ensured he remained unaware of the incident. "The school has been notified of a potential security concern. I require the surveillance footage without delay and request that Leo's security detail be increased to 3 operatives, effective immediately." Conrad ended the call and returned to where Stella was waiting, his mind racing with possibilities. If she wasn't behind the texts, and Bradford Dixon was supposedly in Phoenix, who did you hire to find us? Conrad insisted, and Stella was taken aback by his sudden intensity. A private investigator, recommended by Bradford, was involved. His name was Nolan, and he specialized in international cases. Pieces fell into place with striking clarity. Conrad had concentrated so intently on Stella as the potential threat that he had neglected the possibility of a more sophisticated player operating in the background. "When did you last communicate with Bradford?" Conrad inquired. "About 2 months ago," to which Stella responded. "He mentioned having a lead on your potential whereabouts following your world tour. It was at that point he suggested Nolan." Conrad's strategic thinking swiftly adjusted, recognizing that Bradford Dixon possessed more resources than initially expected, possibly due to familial ties. Undiscovered assets. More importantly, he had strategically utilized Stella as an unwitting distraction while positioning someone else, presumably this Nolan, to approach Leo directly. Conrad turned to his security chief, who had entered the room. "I want everything we have on Bradford Dixon's family connections, particularly any with military or intelligence backgrounds, and I want a full background check on any private investigator named Nolan who specializes in international cases." Turning back to Stella, Conrad made a decisive choice. "You're going to remain. We will retain custody until this situation is resolved. Your presence in London has significantly complicated matters." "Custody," Stella repeated incredulously. "You can't just hold me prisoner." "I can and I will," Conrad replied without emotion. "You violated our agreement by coming here. More importantly, you've inadvertently placed Leo in danger by leading Bradford's operative." As Stella processed this accusation, Conrad's phone chimed with another text message. This one made his blood freeze. "The game changes now, Conrad. Your protection isn't as thorough as you think. If I can get this close to Leo once, I can do it again. Let's discuss terms." Nolan attached a photo taken that very morning of Leo entering his school, clearly shot from close range without Conrad's security team detecting the photographer. Conrad showed the message to his security chief, whose expression darkened. "Sir, this level of surveillance suggests a high degree of expertise. A training possibly involving former intelligence or special forces." Conrad nodded grimly. "Find out exactly who we're dealing with and move Leo to the safe house in Cornwall immediately. Use the school emergency protocol we established." As his team sprang into action, Conrad turned back to Stella, whose face had paled upon seeing the photo of Leo. "I didn't know," she whispered. "Conrad, you have to believe me, I would never put Leo in danger." "Intentionally, perhaps not," Conrad conceded. "But your resentment and Bradford's desire for revenge have created this situation nonetheless." Later that evening, Conrad sat in the secure communications room of his Kensington townhouse, monitoring the transport of Leo to the remote Cornwall property. The extraction had gone smoothly, with Leo informed only that a credible security threat required temporary relocation. His security team had compiled preliminary information on Nolan Rhee, the operative Bradford had hired. The picture it painted was concerning: former British intelligence with specialized training in surveillance and extraction. Dishonorably discharged for unauthorized operations and subsequently engaged as a high-end private contractor for clients seeking morally ambiguous services. Conrad's phone rang with a call from an unlisted number. He activated the call tracing protocol before answering. "Whitlock," he said tersely. "Impressive security response today," came a smooth, cultured voice. "Your son was relocated within 3 hours of the incident." "Professional work, Nolan Rhee," Conrad replied, signaling his team to continue the trace. "Bradford Dixon must be compensating well. You are well suited for this level of operation." Dixon provided the motivation and initial funding, as Rhee confirmed casually. "However, I have developed a personal interest in this case." "You possess quite the strategic mind," Conrad. The way you systematically dismantle Dixon and your ex-wife is artistry. What do you want? Conrad demanded, keeping Reese talking while the trace continued. Originally, it was to help Dixon gather evidence of your financial manipulations. Now, I am more interested in testing my skills against someone of your caliber. It is rare to find a worthy opponent. The casual arrogance in Reese's tone sent a chill through Conrad. This was no longer a simple revenge mission. It had evolved into something potentially more dangerous, a personal challenge from a trained operative who perceived the situation as an intellectual game. Then you should know you're outmatched, Conrad replied with a measured tone. I've identified you. I know your background, and my resources far exceed anything Dixon could provide. Reese chuckled. That's why this is interesting. Here's my proposal. I'll cease all operations targeting your son in exchange for £10 million transferred to an offshore account. Consider it a consulting fee for exposing the weaknesses in your security protocols. Conrad's security chief signaled that they had triangulated Reese's location to within 2 city blocks. You've miscalculated, Ree, Conrad said, his voice dangerously soft. I don't negotiate with threats to my family. What I do is eliminate them permanently and thoroughly. Bold words, Ree replied. Exhibiting amusement rather than concern, we'll see whose strategy prevails. Please extend my regards to Stella. The line disconnected just as Conrad's team identified Reese's precise location. Deploy the interception team, Conrad instructed. I want Ree contained within the hour. As security personnel mobilized, Conrad turned to the surveillance feed displaying Stella in the secured guest room of the safe house. She sat on the edge of the bed, her posture conveying defeat and confusion. Conrad had deemed her a non-threat, yet she continued to pose a liability, a potential risk. A point of leverage Ree could exploit. The strategic move would be to isolate her completely until the situation was resolved. Yet, for the first time since executing his revenge against Stella and Bradford, Conrad felt a flicker of something approaching doubt. Not about the justice of his actions. Their betrayal had earned the consequences he delivered, but about the collateral damage his strategy had created in targeting Bradford Dixon so completely. Conrad had inadvertently created a desperate man with nothing left to lose. The urgency of the situation had resulted in the recruitment of Nolan Ree, who now represented a genuine risk to Leo's safety. The strategist in Conrad noted the irony. His meticulous plan for revenge had inadvertently introduced a vulnerability he had always sought to evade in his business endeavors. As he observed the interception team's advancement toward Reese's position, Conrad made a calculated decision. This threat could not be addressed through standard security protocols alone. It necessitated the same systematic and unyielding strategy he had employed previously. Nolan Ree made a significant misstep by confronting Conrad Whitlock directly regarding the dismantling of Stella and Bradford's lives. He was on the verge of realizing the extent of the silent strategist's capabilities when his son's safety was compromised. Chapter 9. The Final Calculation. The Cornwall safe house appeared to be a charming country estate from the exterior, with its stone walls and meticulously maintained gardens hiding advanced security systems and robust construction. Conrad arrived by helicopter shortly after dawn. Spent the night coordinating the manhunt for Nolan Ree. The interception team had missed Ree by mere minutes, discovering only the burner phone he had used to contact Conrad, intentionally left on a park bench. The psychological warfare aspect was evident. Ree was showcasing his capacity to predict Conrad's actions. Upon entering the main house, Conrad found Leo in the sunroom, sketching the dramatic coastline visible through the windows. Despite the hurried relocation, his son appeared composed, a testament to the resilience he had cultivated over the past year. "Morning, Dad," Leo greeted. He greeted him, looking up from his sketch pad. "Your security team operates with great diligence. Blake wouldn't even allow me to walk in the garden without an escort." Conrad offered a reassuring smile. "It's just precautionary. How are you managing?" Leo shrugged. "It's not every day you get whisked away to a secret mansion due to a security concern. Are you going to tell me what's really happening?" Conrad had anticipated this question during the helicopter flight. Leo deserved some version of the truth, even if not every detail. "Someone from our past in Lakeside." Conrad took a seat across from Leo and explained that Heights had been making threats. "We have reason to believe they might attempt to approach you." Leo studied his father's face intently. Mom, no, though she's involved indirectly, Conrad admitted. She's actually here in a separate wing of the house. Leo's eyebrows shot up. Mom's here. Since when? Since yesterday. She arrived in London with the intention of seeing you, which unintentionally resulted in someone else visiting your school. Leo paused for a moment, absorbing this information. The individual making threats is linked to your actions regarding Mom and Mr. Dixon, isn't it? Conrad had consistently misjudged his son's insight. Yes, it seems Mr. Dixon engaged someone to collect information that could be used against me legally. That individual has now exceeded their initial task. Can I see Mom? Leo inquired unexpectedly. Conrad hesitated. Is that something you truly want? I'm not sure, Leo replied. Admitted, but I believe it is necessary. It has been over a year, Dad. After a moment's consideration, Conrad nodded. I will arrange it, but I need to speak with her first. In a secured meeting room, Conrad faced Stella across a polished oak table. She appeared exhausted but had regained some composure since their confrontation in London. Leo wants to see you, Conrad stated directly. Before I allow that, I need absolute clarity regarding your involvement with Ree. I have disclosed everything, Stella insisted. Bradford recommended him, I compensated him too. Locate you and Leo. That is all. Did you discuss revenge with Bradford regarding my financial dealings or anything that might have motivated Ree to go beyond simply locating us? Stella hesitated, confirming Conrad's suspicion that she wasn't being entirely forthcoming. Bradford mentioned something about proving you had manipulated financial markets to destroy his business. She finally admitted he thought if we could obtain evidence, we might be able to negotiate a better settlement. However, I never authorized anything that would put us in that position. Leo is in a precarious situation. Conrad assessed her, considering the probability that she was being truthful. Bradford's quest for vengeance has led to a perilous scenario. Ree is not just a private investigator. He possesses a background in intelligence with specialized training. He approaches this as a challenge rather than a mere occupation. A hint of fear crossed Stella's face. What does he want? Allegedly money, but I suspect his motives have shifted to something more personal, a desire to engage with someone he views as a formidable adversary. What are your next steps? Conrad's expression hardened. What I've always done when faced with a threat to my family is identify the vulnerabilities and exploit them decisively. Before Stella could respond, Conrad's secure phone rang with his security chief's code. Excuse me, he said, stepping away from the table. Go ahead, sir. We've intercepted communications between Ree and Dixon. Dixon appears to be en route to London, arriving at Heathrow tomorrow morning on BA Flight 289 from Phoenix. Interesting timing, Conrad observed. Have a team ready to intercept. Ed Dixon is at the airport, continuing to monitor Reese's known associates. Local support will be essential for whatever he is planning. After concluding the call, Conrad returned to Stella. It appears that Bradford is more deeply involved than previously indicated. He is currently en route to London. Stella's surprise seemed authentic. She mentioned that he had claimed he could no longer afford international travel. However, it seems he has secured resources for this specific trip. Conrad noted dryly that this raises questions about his actual financial situation and his intentions. Achieved by attending in person, a theory was developing in Conrad's mind, one that clarified both Reese's psychological tactics and Bradford's unexpected arrival. This situation transcended mere revenge or financial gain. It was about altering the power dynamic that Conrad had meticulously constructed through a methodical deconstruction of their lives. I will schedule a meeting for you with Leo this afternoon, Conrad informed Stella, making a swift strategic choice. In the meantime, I would like you to contact Bradford. Stella appeared perplexed. Call him to ascertain his exact intentions, Conrad suggested. He still thinks you're collaborating with him. Utilize that. Later that day, after Stella's monitored call to Bradford validated Conrad's concerns, Leo sat in the same meeting room, anxiously awaiting his mother. Conrad had briefed him with a carefully curated account of events, stressing that although Stella had made unwise decisions, she had never meant to jeopardize his safety. When Stella entered, her demeanor briefly wavered at the sight of her son. Leo had matured. A taller, his features more defined, He carried himself with a confidence that had been absent in Lakeside Heights. "Leo," she said softly, "you look wonderful." Leo remained seated, his expression guarded. "Hi, Mom." Conrad observed their reunion from the security monitoring room. Watching the awkward conversation unfold, Stella attempted to bridge the gap of the past year with questions about Leo's studies and life in London. Leo answered politely but maintained an emotional distance that clearly pained her. "Your father tells me you've been accepted into a special program at the Architectural Association," Stella said, attempting to connect. "That's amazing, Leo." "You always said architecture wasn't a real career path," Leo replied evenly, recalling her previous skepticism about his pursuits. Stella winced at having her words quoted back to her. "I was wrong about a lot of things, Leo, including that." As the conversation continued, Conrad, the security chief, entered the monitoring room with an update. "Sir, the team intercepted Dixon at Heathrow as planned. He is being transferred to our secondary location for questioning." An initial search of his belongings revealed this. He handed Conrad a thumb drive in an evidence bag. Preliminary analysis suggests it contains sophisticated malware designed to penetrate financial systems, similar to tools used in state-sponsored hacking operations. Conrad's suspicions crystallized into certainty. Ree isn't just hunting for evidence of my financial manipulations. He is planning to execute a strategy. The approach was elegant in its simplicity. If Ree couldn't find legitimate evidence of Conrad's alleged financial misconduct, would be fabricated using Bradford as the delivery mechanism. The objective was not solely retribution, but a total reversal to implicate Conrad in the very market manipulation and fraud he had previously uncovered in Bradford's business practices. "Enhance security protocols on all Phantom investment systems immediately," Conrad instructed. "And prepare the conference room. I need to speak with Dixon personally." An hour later, Conrad confronted Bradford and Dixon across a table in the secure conference room. The former prominent car dealer appeared diminished, his designer suit replaced by casual travel attire, and his once confident demeanor now eroded by a year of financial and social turmoil. "Hello, Bradford," Conrad greeted him with a cool tone. "I believe you have something that belongs to me." Bradford attempted a defiant sneer that failed to reach his eyes. "I don't know what you're talking about, Whitlock." Conrad placed the thumb drive on the table between them. "This sophisticated piece of malware that Nolan Ree provided you to implant in my financial systems. Did he clarify that it would generate misleading evidence of market manipulation that could be traced back to my accounts, or did he merely indicate that it would provide the evidence you required?" Uncertainty flickered across Bradford's face. "You have been targeting me for over a year, dismantling my businesses and tarnishing my reputation, all because I developed feelings for your wife." Conrad's laughter lacked any trace of humor. "Love? Is that what you refer to it as? You pursued a married woman under the impression that she was the spouse of a financially struggling advisor, an easy target. Your extravagant lifestyle and perceived success would certainly capture attention. However, upon revealing my actual financial situation, your interest shifted from simple infidelity to a calculated opportunity," Conrad stated with unwavering determination. "Do not underestimate my intelligence by suggesting otherwise." Bradford's composure began to falter. "You methodically dismantled everything I created." "No, Bradford, I merely revealed what you had already compromised through your own decisions. The financial misconduct at your dealerships existed long before my involvement. Years of tax evasion were your decision. I simply ensured that the relevant authorities were informed." Conrad leaned forward slightly. "However, that is not the reason for your presence here. You are here because Nolan Ree persuaded you that you could alter our roles, implicate me in financial crimes using this malware, and then reveal me as I revealed you." Bradford's silence validated Conrad's evaluation. "What you overlooked is that Ree has his own motives." Conrad continued, "Once he recognized the breadth of my resources, this turned into a game for him. An opportunity to assess his abilities against an adversary he respects. You are simply a piece in his broader plan." "He assured me of retribution," Bradford stated faintly. "A chance for restoration." "At what price?" Conrad inquired sharply. "Did he disclose that his methods have put Leo at risk, that he has been monitoring a 14-year-old boy?" Bradford's demeanor changed, authentic worry surfacing amidst his bitterness. Despite his numerous shortcomings, Conrad noted that Bradford had consistently shown kindness to Leo throughout his relationship with Stella. I never consented regarding any matters involving Leo, Bradford asserted. The objective was solely to gather evidence of your financial manipulations. Yet here we find ourselves, Conrad responded icily, with my son under protection due to your operative's decision to escalate the situation into personal matters. Conrad slid a document across the table. This is a comprehensive confession outlining your involvement with Ree, including the planned cyber attack on my financial systems. Sign it, and I will guarantee your return to Phoenix with sufficient resources to begin anew, away from my family. Decline. I will be compelled to address this matter as an attempted cybercrime, along with all associated legal ramifications. Bradford examined the document before shifting his gaze to Conrad. Ree is my responsibility, not yours. After Bradford signed a confession, Conrad arranged for him to be taken to a secure location where he would stay until the situation with Ree was settled. With one liability managed, Conrad directed his complete focus to the more significant threat. The psychological profile developed by his team regarding Nolan Ree indicated a man driven by intellectual motivations. A challenge rather than mere financial gain presented both a vulnerability and an opportunity. Ree's ego could be leveraged against him. Conrad instructed his security team to leak information suggesting that Leo was being moved to a different safe house, a classic misdirection play that would appeal to Reese's intelligence background. Meanwhile, Conrad implemented the final phase of his counter-strategy. That evening, as Conrad reviewed the security arrangements with his team, Leo entered his temporary office in the Cornwall estate. I spoke with my mother. Leo took a seat across from his father. She shared details about the events in Lakeside Heights, explaining how you systematically dismantled her life and Mr. Dixon's after we departed. Conrad observed his son intently. Yes, I did, he acknowledged. You destroyed her reputation, isolated her socially, and bankrupted Mr. Dixon's businesses as retaliation for their treatment of you. While that is a simplified version, it is essentially accurate, Conrad confirmed, without attempting to soften his actions. Leo remained silent for a moment. The strategic thinking applied in business has been utilized against them. Now, someone is employing similar tactics against you, Leo observed. Doesn't that prompt you to reconsider the validity of your approach? Conrad contemplated his response thoughtfully. The distinction lies in intent, Leo. My actions against your mother and Bradford never jeopardized innocent lives. This individual, Ree, has deliberately chosen to target you, someone entirely uninvolved in the initial conflict. Leo nodded slowly, acknowledging the difference. I'm attempting to reconcile the father I've come to know. And to reflect on the past years spent with someone who exhibited such deliberate destructiveness, I stand by my decision to shield you from those who posed a threat, Conrad stated resolutely. Your mother's ongoing criticism and disregard for your abilities was detrimental, revealing its effects only after our departure from Bradford. Her relationship with you played a significant role in fostering that toxic atmosphere. What comes next? Leo inquired. As for this Ree individual, Conrad responded succinctly, he will be addressed, and then we will resume our lives in London. And regarding my mother, Conrad. A side aid, that decision ultimately rests with you, Leo. If you desire a relationship with her, I will not obstruct it. However, it must be approached with careful consideration to prevent her from reverting to her previous behaviors. Later that evening, Conrad received the anticipated call from his security team leader. The target took the bait. Sir, Reese attempted to access the decoy safehouse location. He has been apprehended and is currently being transported to the secure facility. Excellent. I will speak with him in the morning. At dawn, Conrad entered the interrogation room where Nolan Ree was being held showcased a notable contrast to Bradford Dixon. The former intelligence operative remained calm and composed, exhibiting no signs of stress despite his circumstances. Mr. Whitlock Ree greeted him with unexpected cordiality. I wonder when you'd make an appearance, Mr. Ree, Conrad replied, taking a seat across from him. I believe we have matters to discuss. Ree smiled thinly. Indeed, though I must compliment your team on the elegant misdirection play. The leaked transport plans were convincing enough to warrant. The investigation revealed subtle inconsistencies that should have raised my concerns. A test within a test. Impressive. "You mistake me for someone interested in playing games," Conrad stated coldly. "You targeted my son. That was your critical mistake." "Business, Mr. Whitlock." Bradford Dixon paid for results, yet you exceeded his parameters, developing what your communications referred to as a personal interest in the case. Conrad presented a folder containing printed emails between Ree and his associates. That was the moment this ceased to be. The business evolved into something entirely different. Reese's expression remained neutral, yet Conrad sensed a brief flicker of surprise at the revelation of compromised communications. "Your methods with Dixon and your ex-wife were impressive," Ree acknowledged. "I recognized a kindred strategic mind. Few appreciate the sophistication of systematic deconstruction." "Here's what happens next," Conrad stated, disregarding the attempt to find common ground. "The evidence of your planned cyber attack has been secured, Bradford Dixon. A signed confession has been provided, outlining your involvement. I have 3 options regarding your fate." Ree raised an eyebrow, maintaining his composure. "I'm listening." Option 1. I turn you over to British authorities with evidence of your planned cybercrimes, your surveillance of a minor, and your history of unauthorized operations that led to your dishonorable discharge. Given your background, you would face significant prison time. Messy and public repercussions. Not your typical approach. Option 2. I utilize my resources to ensure you will not engage in private security again. Your reputation would be irreparably damaged among prospective clients. Your financial accounts would be subject to freezing through various legal avenues. You would essentially cease to exist in a professional capacity according to your established protocols. More refined, I concede. Option 3, Conrad continued. You would sign a comprehensive non-disclosure agreement, accept a one-time payment of $1 million, and permanently remove yourself from my family's life. Any future contact, whether direct or indirect, would activate. The immediate implementation of Option 2 was restudied. Conrad reflected thoughtfully on the generous offer, considering the circumstances. "However, I am curious why you opted for such a clean resolution instead of the more thorough destruction you applied to Dixon." "Because, unlike Bradford, you are merely a professional who overstepped," Conrad replied. "Your mistake was in personalizing what should have remained a business transaction. I am offering you the opportunity to rectify that mistake." After a calculated pause, Ree nodded. "Option 3 has obvious appeal, though I must express some disappointment at not being able to see how our chess match might have concluded under different circumstances." "It concluded the moment you targeted my son," Conrad stated flatly. "Everything since has been merely the execution of an inevitable outcome." Later that day, with Reese's situation resolved through the signed NDA and financial transfer, Conrad made his final strategic decision regarding Stella. After consulting with Leo, who had expressed cautious interest in maintaining limited contact with his mother, Conrad offered Stella a revised proposal. Arrangement: you will return to Lakeside Heights, he informed her in his temporary office at the Cornwall estate. The monthly stipend will continue as established in our divorce agreement. Additionally, I have arranged for you to be offered a position with the Henderson Foundation, a legitimate role managing their charitable events, not a handout. Stella looked surprised at this unexpected development. "Why would you do that after everything that's happened?" "Because despite your mistakes, you're still Leo's mother," Conrad replied evenly. "He has indicated a desire to sustain a relationship with you, contingent upon your stable employment and social standing. Additionally, Stella has requested complete confidentiality concerning my financial history and the events of the past year. Monthly sessions with a family therapist are required prior to any in-person visits with Leo, along with an unequivocal understanding that any efforts to undermine Leo's confidence or choices will lead to the immediate cessation of all contact." Stella paused for a moment before replying. "You have considered every detail, as always." "I prioritize what is important to me," Conrad stated plainly. "Leo is important. His well-being is non-negotiable. And what about us? Will there ever be anything beyond these calculated arrangements?" Conrad's expression remained unchanged. "There is no us, Stella. There hasn't been for years. What exists now is a practical arrangement centered solely on Leo's well-being." 3 days later, with the situation fully resolved, Conrad and Leo returned to their London townhouse. Bradford Dixon had been escorted back to Phoenix with sufficient A capital to initiate a modest business unrelated to automotive sales, secured by legal agreements to ensure a permanent separation from Conrad's family. Nolan Rhee had vanished as planned, his threat mitigated through a combination of financial incentives and potential repercussions. Stella had returned to Lakeside Heights to commence her new role with the Henderson Foundation, with arrangements established for monitored video calls with Leo as an initial step toward cautiously rebuilding their relationship. As Conrad and Leo resumed their routine in London, Leo approached his father in the study one evening. "Dad, can I ask you something?" Conrad looked up from his work. "Of course. Do you ever regret how thoroughly you dismantled Mom and Mr. Dixon's lives? Not the fact that you did it, but the extent of it." Conrad considered the question thoughtfully. "Regret implies I would make different choices if given another opportunity. I wouldn't. The strategy one implemented was precisely calibrated to the situation, even though it ultimately. This situation was created with Rhee. Every strategy has potential second-order consequences." Conrad explained that the art lies in anticipating them and having contingencies ready. "The situation was managed because we were prepared for such possibilities." Leo nodded slowly. "I've been reflecting on something my mother said, that you never forgive anyone who betrays you." "That's largely accurate," Conrad admitted. "I believe consequences should align with actions. Your mother and Bradford betrayed my trust in profound ways over an extended period. The consequences reflected that reality." "What about me?" Leo asked quietly. "What if I make mistakes or disappoint you someday?" Conrad's expression softened immediately. "Leo, there's a fundamental difference between mistakes and betrayal. Everyone makes mistakes. They're how we learn and grow. Betrayal is a deliberate choice to harm someone who trusts you. I can't imagine a scenario where you would make such a choice." Leo seemed reassured by this distinction. "So the strategic mastermind has a heart after all," he said with a small smile. "Only for you," Conrad replied. Replied simply always for you. As Leo returned to his architectural studies, Conrad reflected on the events of the past year. The mask of mediocrity he had worn for so long in Lakeside Heights had been permanently discarded. The strategic mind that had built his financial empire had been fully revealed, both in business and in his methodical dismantling of those who had betrayed him. The silent strategist had emerged from the shadows, his true nature now known to those who mattered. For Conrad Whitlock, this was the only victory that had ever truly mattered. The importance of being true to oneself and providing an environment where one's child can thrive, with their abilities acknowledged and cultivated. The subsequent actions taken, revenge, countermeasures, and strategic maneuvers, were simply means to achieve that vital goal. Thus, we reach the conclusion of another narrative. I welcome your reflections in the comments below. If you appreciated this story, consider becoming part of our community by subscribing. Your support is invaluable to us. For additional stories of this nature, please explore the suggested videos will be displayed on the screen, and I look forward to seeing you.